Thank you. Welcome. This is the Sherborn Select Board meeting of Tuesday, November 18. I am calling the meeting to order at 7:35 p.m. In attendance, we have Marion Neutra, Dan Sickle, Jeff Walderensis, and myself, Stephen Tsai. At this time, can I ask, Jeremy, are you going to be reading the?
Diane's on too remotely.
If I can get the Assistant Town Administrator to read the agenda, please.
Good evening. A public hearing to consider a complaint submitted pursuant to General Law, Chapter 140, Section 157A, that a border collie known as Mia and a shepherd known as Pepper, which is owned by Andre Barros and kept at 41 Perry Street in the town of Sherborn, are dangerous dogs or nuisance dogs, as those terms are defined in General Law, Chapter 140, Section 136A. The Select Board may make such findings and orders as authorized under the statute, considering that said dogs as may be deemed necessary, which may include remedial action and/or restraint or euthanization of the dogs, and votes may be taken.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to this agenda? All right, hearing none, can I get a motion relative to?
Yeah, I would move acceptance of the agenda as read by the Assistant Town Administrator.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. All right, so now the first step is, so this is actually a continuation or a reopening of a previous public hearing on this issue, which was dated May 29th of this year. But some new incidents have occurred, and so we are reopening this hearing. So can I get a motion from the board to reopen the dangerous dog hearing?
So moved. I move that we reopen the dangerous dog hearing for a continuation.
I second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so just for some additional background information, we did have a determination in May that the dogs in question, Mia and Pepper, were deemed to be nuisance dogs, and our order was that a full perimeter fence be built around Mr. Barros's yard, and that furthermore, any time that the dogs were outside of the home or outside of the perimeter fence, that they would have to be on leash. And so that was, that order was made on May 30th, 2025, and Mr. Barros was given 60 days to comply with the order. I guess at this time, let me go through the procedures of the hearing. They are kind of the same as they were before. The posting was read by the Assistant Town Administrator, we can first hear from the complainant if she is available, and it's voluntary. If I can see, I believe Alexandra, I think that's Alexandra Frank, that is on the Zoom. And then we can hear from the dog owner, Mr. Barros, but I'm not sure that I see Mr. Barros either in attendance in person or on Zoom. And then anybody who would like to speak on behalf of either party can also do so. And then we will speak with the Animal Control Officer, Lieutenant Luke Tedstone, who is here in the room with us. And then we will discuss among the board. So I guess first off, if Alexandra Frank, if you wanted to say anything, you can, but if you didn't want to, it's not fully necessary. We do have further facts and incidents that have occurred, which I believe Lieutenant Ted Stone will probably be able to present for us. But if there was anything that you wanted to say, you are welcome to do so now.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I wasn't prepared to speak tonight. I didn't know that I was going to speak tonight. But I think that the most important thing to put forth.
All right, Alex, can I just pause you real quick?
Yeah.
If you do want to speak, so I just need you to, can I actually get you on camera? And again,
Sure.
you don't have to speak if you don't want to. But if you can state your name, raise your hand, and confirm that you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
My name's Alexandra Frank. I live at 62 Maple Street. And I swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
All right, thank you.
And my hand's raised. So again, I wasn't prepared to speak this evening, but what I will say is two things that I want to bring forward, because the report that that Lieutenant Ted Stone has really says everything that I need to say about what happened recently, and is why the case is being opened back up. But I would say two things are relevant. One of them is the time period that was required to construct the fence, because you guys were very clear about 2 months and it didn't occur within that time frame. And it's only when I was riding by the house one day and I saw that Pepper was out next to the house again that I became alarmed and sent an email letting people know that just checking in on what was going on. And luckily, eventually the fence did come up. Another thing to point out, I sent some photos today, but the fence doesn't include the entire yard. And again, it doesn't include the area where I was initially I was attacked by one of the dogs, the female Mia. And I don't know if that's something to bring forward as well. And finally, the incident which most recently happened, where the Mia was outside the fence and came after me out into the street, which again is detailed in the report. So just looking to make things safe, and kind of at a point where I don't know how to accomplish that. So that's about all I have to say.
All right, thank you. And is there anyone else, either in the room or on the Zoom, who would like to speak on behalf of Ms. Frank? All right, seeing and hearing none, now I can ask if the dog owner, Mr. Barros, is present, if he would like to say anything. Yes, please indicate yourself if you happen to be one of the people who is on the Zoom. All right, seeing and hearing none, I'll ask for anybody else who is present who would like to speak on behalf of Mr. Barros. And again, seeing and hearing none, I will now go to the animal control officer, who is Lieutenant Ted Stone. If you wouldn't mind actually just coming up to the desk here, just because they're closer to the camera as this guy on the table here. But again, if you can state your name, raise your hand, and confirm that you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
My name is Lieutenant Stone, and I'll say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
All right, thank you.
So basically, the information is that we received an additional complaint from Ms. Frank on Wednesday, November 12th, at approximately 9:47 a.m. She was riding her bike by the home, and she informed me that Mia, the border collie, got out and chased her up the street as she was riding her bike. Right around the same time, or a couple minutes after this incident occurred, Mr. Barros reached out to me directly by text and said, just giving you a heads up, Mia just got out. Sounds like his wife left the door open and the dog ran out the door and chased Ms. Frank up the street as she was riding her bike by.
Okay. And my understanding is that this is actually the second time in at least the past month that the dogs have been out, right? I think Alex mentioned twice, one time that I think she noticed that, was it Pepper? Pepper was out, and then another time that Mia was out and was chasing her. So that's at least twice in the past month that the dogs have been out, right?
I wasn't aware of the first one.
Okay.
We were the one that I mentioned.
Okay. And you have gone to the property to evaluate the fence, right?
Yes.
Can you give us your sort of determination of how the fence is, the completeness or lack of completeness of it, and sort of your assessment of the fence?
Sure, it certainly doesn't completely surround the property. There is substantial fencing throughout the front and both sides. I think it's a 6-foot fence. However, the back section, I guess the back quarter, if you will, is exposed and only fenced in per Mr. Barros with an invisible fence. He informed me that the reason that the rear part of the area wasn't fenced in was due to topography issues and a steep decline on one side of the property, which made it very difficult and very expensive for him to completely surround the area and fencing. So the front is completely covered with the exception of a small area next to, there's like a stepped or a terraced area next to the home by the deck. There's a small opening there. And he informed me that the dogs would have difficulty getting up the incline or the terraced area, which is why that area was left open. And then the sides are extensively fenced. And again, just the rear part of the home is not completely fenced with structural fencing. There is an electric fence.
And in your determination, that area next to the house where there's a little gap, is that gap large enough that these dogs would be able to get through if they tried?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And then I suppose, did you evaluate the gate of the fence? Like, is it one of those gates that closes itself automatically, or is it one that would kind of just hang open if you didn't physically close it?
I don't know the answer to that. I didn't physically open or close it, and I didn't ask. It was, like I said, it was a pretty substantial, solid vinyl or PVC fence that was about 6 feet high.
Yeah.
And with the exception of that small area, I think it would be very difficult for the dogs to even see or hear anything in the front yard.
Right.
Obviously, if they were close to the fence, it would be more likely that they could hear something. But they had no idea that I was there when I walked around the property. I walked fairly close to them, and they were kind of out sunning themselves, sleeping on the backyard.
Okay, so I guess, so far as I can tell, the facts that I think that are not in dispute, of course, the defendant is not here to dispute them, but we made an order that a fence be constructed within 60 days of May 30th, so that gave the end of July essentially, and that fence was not constructed. I also believe that a temporary fence, a chain link fence, was supposed to go up immediately, and as far as I'm aware, the temporary fence also never went up. I never formally went to look, but I do drive by that house occasionally, and so whenever I could, I would just have a look to see, and I don't think I ever saw a chain link fence up. I don't know if you ever saw a chain link fence up during that interim period.
There was some fencing to the right side of the home. It was dark or black, which made it difficult to see from the street. So there was some sort of fencing, but it certainly wasn't a full perimeter fence.
Yeah. And then the full fence was not constructed in time according to the order. And now that it has been constructed, it also is not a complete perimeter, with at least one side of the yard having a substantial area that is not physically fenced in, and then also a smaller gap next to the house. And then furthermore, in at least one incident, but probably two, the dogs have been outside of the perimeter unleashed, and on at least one of those occasions did chase Ms. Frank on her bicycle. So as far as I can tell, those seem to be the facts at hand for us to consider. And then,
one thing, Steve.
Yep.
It's true that gap between the house and the white vinyl fence, to me, I drive by it a lot. was open and certainly it looked big enough for a dog to get through if he wanted to jump, whatever they. But the last couple days, I've seen a slatted fence across that gap. And maybe it's just been put there, but I just want to mention it because it is there now as far as I can see. I did go up to check that it was, well connected or anything, but I think within at least the last 3 days, I've seen that slatted fence closing the gap. And I don't know if you were probably there much earlier than that, but I just wanted to add that as a bit of a fact. I think, I haven't checked absolutely, but it's what it looked like.
And so then I guess as we deliberate and consider sort of either additional conditions or else sort of enforcement orders that we can take on this, obviously we should discuss the actual perimeter fence and the lack of a complete perimeter, especially in the backside. But then additionally, sort of potential, fines or other actions that we could take relative to this order, given that it has not been complied with and that it does sound like whatever the owner has done has clearly not been adequate to actually contain the dogs. So I think some potential things that we can do, I believe the town's bylaw allows for us to fine for a written warning for the first violation, a $50 fine for the second violation, $100 fine for the third violation, and then fourth and each subsequent violation could be $250. And I believe that the standard is that each day that the order is not complied with counts as a separate violation, so that essentially a fine could be levied each day that whatever we determine. So that would be the sort of financial penalty. We also have the option to seize the dogs until the order is complied with. We could recommend or require additional insurance be carried by the homeowner to sort of protect against any injuries caused by the dogs, and or require dog training. Otherwise, Mr. Barros could appeal our order and then basically send it into the court system. Yes, Paul?
So typically what I've done in other towns with this kind of situation is that we could go get a court order and have the court enforce our decision. The advantage of the court order is it's got a lot of teeth. It's quite dramatic. So it operates like an injunction. And the statute specifically authorizes the court to take enforcement actions itself. And it's worked fine, but the judges have been very cooperative. In my experience, I do a lot of this. We've never had an order not granted. They often not opposed, but whether they're opposed or not, the courts have been, they're not going to listen to the dog owner whining about couldn't get a contractor, couldn't do this, couldn't do that. They'll issue an order that by 5 o'clock you're going to do this. Don't do it. They have means to make it happen. Let's put it that way. And we have counsel present, so you could trot off and get that order.
And if there is a court order and the defendant does not comply, whose responsibility is it enforcement-wise? Is it still the Sherborn Police Department or?
Sherborn Police to notify the lawyer who notifies the judge that the judge's order has been disobeyed.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So if the town would bring a court action to get a court order that says you must do A, B, and C. If he does not comply with it, then you bring a contempt complaint. And contempt, as Mr. Dorrance states, has teeth. He could risk being locked up if he comply with the order. So I think that's what he's referring to.
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise, you don't go to court unless the dog owner doesn't like the order and he appeals, and then you end up in court. So that would be a route for you to start the court proceeding.
Right, I see.
Who do they use to enforce these court orders? Is it some county body or some external police force, or how
To
do they?
enforce a court order? No, it's up to the town to notify, bring a petition for contempt, that kind of stuff. So we'll be spending some money on lawyers, yeah.
So just, again, I didn't quite follow how that works, because from reading the MGL, I understand how the dog owner can file with the court, but what would the way be that we would do that if we wanted to go that
I
route?
don't know that the statute particularly refers to the town's right to bring action, but the town has a general right to seek a court order saying, hey, we have an animal control
Yeah,
law.
okay.
We have a statute that applies. We have an order that was issued that's not being complied with. So we are seeking to enforce our order. Like a general equitable, you seek a preliminary injunction, a court order
Okay,
from the courts.
okay.
All right, so that's an option as well.
And you can combine it, you can fine him and at the same time get a court order. So the court order can help, the fines can help pay for the cost of enforcing.
Yeah.
Typically, they're not gonna pay the fines either.
So if we wanted to seek a court order, would that require a hearing, or if we just simply make another sort of determination and condition here tonight without specifically voting on seeking a court order, and subsequently it becomes clear that Mr. Barros is still not intending to comply, would we have to do this again just to get that court order, or is that something that we would be able to do?
You need a vote of the board to instruct counsel to go get a court order.
Yeah.
You could include that in your decision, to say if by date X he has not complied, then we are instructing counsel to bring legal.
Okay.
Right.
Maren?
Yeah, that sounds like a reasonable plan to me. I wouldn't go straight to a court.
Yeah, I don't want to go straight to a court order. I don't think that the defendant really wants this to go to the court system either. I just kind of want to make sure that we've laid out all of our options on the table so that we know everything that we could potentially do now or in the future.
I mean, what we really, excuse me,
No, go ahead.
what we really want to happen here is for those dogs to be reliably contained. And we don't want anything to happen to the dogs or to anyone else. So we want a fence up there. And if he has closed that gap, or if he will close it within a certain amount of time that we can determine, and done something to close the back part, which you can see if you're coming up Merchant Street, you look right up that hill. And it doesn't look that terrible a drop off to me that you couldn't put some kind of fence in there. It seems to me just to get it done and to get those dogs safe, and the residents, by the way, safe too. We should do something that really motivates him to get that fence complete and motivates him to be really careful about that gate before we do anything too drastic, because we just want to get this done. We want to get the dogs contained, and
Go ahead.
anything that sort of drags that out, be it, a court order or whatever, I think is maybe not in our interest at this point. We could always refer we could always resort to that if we have to.
Yeah, I'm much less sympathetic than the rest of the board. If the person had showed up tonight to explain these factors, I might have listened. But not only did they not comply, the fence took longer to get up. The fence was not complete in 2 locations, a large area, it sounds like, on the back, and a small area. But there was still, you said was observable as a gap where you could see through to the house. So they didn't comply at all with what we asked May 30th, whenever it was. So 5 months ago, they had an order, they haven't complied with it, number one. Number two, they were notified of this hearing and they didn't bother to even show up to explain these circumstances themselves. So I wouldn't count myself as sympathetic at all to this situation. I don't think they've made an effort other than putting up a partial fence. The dog was out and also not on a leash or electric collar. Even if the fence was a gap there, then if that's a gap that you knew was there, then you could have had electric fence or some other measure to contain the dog. So I would vote for a court order right now. You know, Mike says we can vote on it now and have it be enacted or executed later, but I'm not at least bit sympathetic with this dog owner.
Yeah, I was gonna add to that. What's gonna change that's gonna make this guy do what he's been ordered to do?
Yeah.
Dan?
If we impose fines, you know, suppose there's a scenario where we said, you know, get the fencing complete within 30 days or else starting then, you know, every day that the fence isn't there is another offense, and the fines as Steve described. How are those enforced?
That's the problem.
There isn't. It's not like.
Well, they're pretty de minimis. It's legal term of the fines are $50 or whatever.
Well, but it's 50 up to 250, and it's every day is a new.
Yeah, but
is
the
a new
fence
thing.
is probably 10 grand or something. I don't know. It's not.
So it's not like a lien can be put on someone's house, or there's the enforcement mechanism is what you said of getting a court order. That is really the enforcement mechanism.
Essentially, at the end of the day, I had a property owner who decided he wanted to use the public street as his yard. He closed the street. So we had the building inspector over there giving him a ticket every day for 365 days. And then on the 366th day, the guy came to town hall with a basket and dumped all the tickets on the counter and left.
Okay.
So I'm experienced with a rougher group.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
No, I just was trying to understand if there was any enforcement mechanism.
Well,
and it sounds
there are
like
things that you try and lien his property, so you put a lien on the property, all that kind of stuff. You try and add it to the tax bills, all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, if somebody isn't going to do it, he isn't going to do it. But a judge can lock him up and say, we're not letting you out until you get it done. That gets it done.
Yeah, that sounds like a stronger enforcement.
I just think that if there's a way that we can decide in our subsequent deliberation tonight whether we want the court order to be drafted right away, or at least be approved by us and be able to be drafted without another meeting, I don't think fines are going to be of any value. No. They're pretty minimal, and you know, if he didn't want to pay them, what Paul said is there's nothing we can do about it, you know. So I don't think
there is an enforcement. You can go to court again to enforce the fines, but
this is a safety issue. This isn't a financial issue. This is a safety issue.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. We want to get that fence up.
Right.
So, but do you think that if a court order is contemplated at the end of 20 days or whatever time it might take to get a fence up, if he knows that at the end, at this date, he's going to get a court order, unless the fence is up. I mean, I'm not saying we should give him all kinds of extra chances because he hasn't completely cooperated, but we just want to get that fence up. And if he's locked up, he's not going to get the fence up. I mean.
Well, he could have showed up tonight and explained all that, but he didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's a huge issue for me.
So just to keep us on focus, I think our responsibility is to protect the people in the town.
Yeah.
We have somebody who's been injured, who is justifiably worried about her personal safety. We need to protect that personal safety. Not 20 days from now, not a year from now, or however long these processes might take. Today, she needs to feel safe.
Right, so the fence isn't going up tonight or tomorrow.
It's going to take him weeks, if not months. Get a
Right,
contractor, have him come in.
I don't think, I mean, for what it's worth, he is a contractor, so I don't believe that that is a meaningful barrier to getting it put up. I mean, at the first hearing, he indicated that the holdup was he needed his wife to choose the fence, and then it would be up almost right away. And it took 3 months. I don't think it took her 3 months to decide. You know, I think he just needs to decide.
No, and he also told us he would put the whatever
The
version
temporary
chain
fence.
link fence up in the interim, and he didn't do that either. So the credibility is just not there from my perspective. So I think at the very least, we should, you know, do something that causes some immediate action. I'm not sure how we go about do that, whether the court orders that or, you know, I think the other thing that you read, but we haven't talked about is any kind of intervention in terms of dog training or dog, you know, part of it is if the dogs aren't properly trained, you know, they may be able to get away with things and, you know, aren't disciplined. I don't know if that, you're more of a dog expert than any of us, Stephen, so.
Yeah, I mean, I
Or Dan,
personally,
too, but
I haven't met the dogs,
Yeah.
but I have heard what the dog's personality is like from Lieutenant,
Yeah.
and also from Ms. Frank, who is a veterinarian as well. And I don't think that the problem is the dogs. The dogs are, I don't believe that poor training is the cause of this. You know,
Okay.
if it was an 8-month-old German Shepherd that obviously had no training whatsoever, then it'd be like, yeah, you just need to train this puppy.
Yeah,
But these are adult dogs, and most of the time they're relatively calm, and then essentially just sometimes they are getting out. And I think that it is, you know, just a matter of sort of lack of vigilance on the homeowner's part in not making sure that the dogs are contained, and that's not something that you are going to train the dogs to do. If that makes sense.
So I have an idea. I sense everybody's reluctance about getting a court order, but we authorize the lawyer to get a court order. The first thing that I've done in the past, and I think he would do, would be to contact the property owner and say, hey, the Board of Selectmen have told me to go get a court order. Do you really want us to do that? And if you do want us to do that, okay. But if you don't want us to do that, get that fence built.
Yeah.
With the process, if we ask you to pursue a court order, how does that process go and what's the timeline?
Yeah. Well, so first you make a decision.
Yes.
You'll issue a new written decision, serve him with that, so he knows what your plan is. You know, if you, whatever the deadline is, you have 14 days to comply. If you don't comply, we've authorized counsel to seek a court order injunction to order you to do so. So that you have that period. You could appeal your decision. That would also delay things by 10 days. In the meantime, it takes us a week or two to put together the complaint, get it served on him, get it filed with the court, and it take another couple of weeks to get a hearing date for a judge, have the hearing, and then hopefully he decides then or almost immediately afterwards. So then maybe another week to get his decision, and then you're off to the races and you can serve him. But you know, it's not like a light switch. Nothing ever is with the courts.
So it sounds like, and I'd be interested if this lines up with your experience, like 4 to 6 weeks from when that starts until there actually is a court order.
right, but the anticipation of a court order could be enough to get that fence up.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna serve him with a complaint, so, you know, he's either gonna have to answer or he's gonna have to hire an attorney, he's gonna have to show up in court, or if he doesn't show up, then almost assuredly the order would issue. So there's it's not without stress on the other party.
And so if we went down that road, sounds like if the order were, you know, that if our decision was that as soon as possible, you file for a court order. Sounds like that would be 4 to 6 weeks. And if he put a fence up within that time, then presumably you'd go to the court and say,
Withdraw at any time.
withdrawn, issue resolved.
Absolutely.
Just want to add one thing.
Yeah.
That I put up a lot of fences on my farm all the time. Got miles and miles of fence. It's really hard to do it when the ground is frozen.
Yes, it's got to happen soon.
You need to do a reasonable job on a fence, you need to be able to dig holes in the
Yeah.
ground
Yeah.
to put posts in. And if it's solid as a rock with low temperatures, so he's gonna say to a judge or to whoever, I can't do it because everything is frozen.
Well.
I'll do it when the warm weather comes. And then he'll try and get extensions until
Yeah,
May,
yeah.
June of next year, and so on and so on. So that's why you gotta be, in my view, you gotta be pretty aggressive. This is November.
He has a month to get it done.
You
before
want,
the
you want
crop
to
finishes.
shorten all these timeframes. What does he need 2 weeks? Because if our lawyer's gonna need 2 weeks, why do we need to give him 2 weeks? You just authorize the lawyer to proceed and have him send a letter. And this is, that's one of the things I do, is send a letter.
And
Getting a
sounds-
letter from a lawyer is,
It gives attention.
it gets attention.
And,
Yeah.
and it sounds like it's not terribly complex thing to do, pretty straightforward.
No, it's not complex to send a letter either.
Or filing the complaint isn't particularly complicated.
Right. And the back side of that property that I think we're talking about the same back, looks down on Merchant Road, Framingham, right? If you're coming up Merchant Road, you look up, you can see the big gap in the white fence.
Right, if you're coming up Merchant Road and you look to your right, you see his property, you see the fence line perpendicular with the street, Perry Street, and then it's the back section that would be almost parallel with the front of the house or the front of the street, so that back section.
That back section is open.
Yep.
And I mention that just because I think we have to be clear that that has to be fenced as well. Because, Merchant Road does have a lot of traffic of kids when they have soccer games down there. And there is it's not a drop off, it's kind of a steep slope, but certainly you can put something there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at a bare minimum, it's not even really even a new order, it's simply to actually comply with the original order, which is to build a physical perimeter fence.
Right.
So again, not actually even a new condition here.
Right.
Uh,
Whatever the topography is, he's got to figure it out.
He's got to figure it
He's got
out.
to whatever the topography is. There's
Yeah.
always a way, and he's got to figure it out.
Yeah, so so I guess it seems like doing both in parallel, immediately getting the wheels going on seeking a court order, but then also essentially providing for some particular timeline for him to actually comply with the original order and complete the fencing. I think that it would be maybe also a good idea to require that the gate, the fence gate be, some form of an automatic closing door, because if essentially the reasoning behind why the dog escaped was because the gate was left open, it's like, doesn't matter how complete your fence is, if you leave the door open, anything can get in or out. So, and I believe that there's a young daughter who lives in the house as well. So, yeah, I mean, you can never tell kids to close the door behind them. So I think that it's probably reasonable to require a self-closing gate of some
Yeah,
kind.
absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely.
And, I think we can leave it up to the lieutenant to go and inspect and take photos of the fencing and everything once it's complete, and to evaluate to make sure that everything is sound. Me personally, I don't believe that requiring any kind of dog training or additional insurance is going to be helpful in any way.
That makes sense.
And I think it also probably needs to be made clear that even if he does comply with the part of the order regarding the fencing, each time that the dogs escape and are off leash and are seen wandering around and a complaint is made to the police department, as long as it can be documented, that each instance of that is going to be considered a violation and with, would fall under this sort of escalating fine system, even if our ability to actually collect on that might require a court order as well. But it just needs to be made clear that the important thing is that the dogs need to stay in. So
there's another alternative that you didn't mention, I'll just throw out there, that to read the statute, if an owner or keeper of a dog is found in violation of an order, the dog shall be subject to seizure and impoundment by a law enforcement or animal control officer. So if we see the dogs running around, you grab the dogs, you lock them up, you have to give notice to the owner. Upon receipt of the notice, the owner may file a petition with the hearing authority within 7 days for return of the dog to the owner. He has to surrender his license and tags, so on and so on. The owner or keeper shall be prohibited from licensing a dog within the Commonwealth for 5 years, and so on for violating this order.
Well,
So there's all kinds of dramatic things that you can do, is what I'm saying.
So,
But you're better off having a judge order it than doing it ourselves. 'Cause
Yes.
We'd rather have a Commonwealth at risk rather than our animal control officer
yeah,
being sued.
yeah.
so can we collectively, I mean, I'm going to make a motion, but I might not get all the words right. I think we want to authorize Mike to draft the court order and to notify the homeowner or the dog owner that the court order is in the process of being drafted. We're moving forward with that process and give them a chance to at least respond. And I would advocate that we do that we authorize Mike to do that. And as he said, we could stop if it appears that it gets resolved, but I don't think anything else is going to motivate this person.
And with the conditions that Steve mentioned of basically absolutely positively complete fencing, just following the earlier order plus the self-closing gate and some of these.
Yeah, those things could be in there, but the problem is, what he said about frozen ground, if it takes 2 weeks to get the order moved forward, the ground's not, it might not be feasible
He
to
has,
do.
he has a month to get the fence in,
next
or
month, it's not gonna freeze.
to do a temporary chain link
Exactly,
thing
yeah,
back there
yeah,
with concrete, anchors and
Yeah,
if you have to
yeah.
do that until the spring and then put in, whatever. I mean,
Exactly.
there's a solution to this.
And if I may, you should also, should make a finding whether or not you think that there's been a violation of your order or if it's been complied with. And then you should close the hearing again. And then you should issue a subsequent decision, which I can serve no more.
Okay.
Town concerned.
So can I make a motion that,
Yes.
Yeah, you better at it than I would be.
based on the evidence that we heard today, and the record, that we find that the owner of the dog has failed to comply with the order dated May 30th, 2025.
That was a motion, right?
Yes.
So are we gonna have several motions, or
Yeah.
you're just,
There'll probably be several motions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one is just to find that the owner has not complied with the original order.
okay, I'll second that motion.
All right. Do we need a roll call on this, or can we still just?
You don't need a roll call.
All right. All in favor?
All
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Then I would turn to the remedy section of the discussion and move that town council be authorized to enforce the order of this board dated May 30, 2025, by seeking the assistance of the court. And any other steps he believes will obtain obedience to the order.
All right, I'll second that too.
All right.
Before we vote, question. So things like the additional condition of self-closing gate, would that come subsequent to this, or would that be included in this? Or what's the right time to make that point?
It's a good idea, so let me suspend that motion. Put that on hold, table my own motion. I will, and move that we amend the order of May 30, 2025, to add, is it one condition? That self-closing gates be installed at all gates on the fence. Was there a second one?
I think it was only that. I mean, there are two gaps in the fencing, you know, so there is the big gap at the back and then the small gap next to the house, which may or may not already have a remedy on it, but essentially the original order was a full physical perimeter fence
We should
anyways.
say all gates, because he may add a gate, like if he puts a fence in the back, he may add another gate. So if we just
Yeah.
say self-closing doors on all gates, I think would take care of it.
Yeah, but I think that it should be made clear to him that closing all of the physical gaps is going to be a necessity anyways, and that's considered part of complying with the original
It's
order.
already in the order.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, it
exactly.
is. So I think the only new condition is self-closing gates.
All right, I'll second that. Pretend you said, do you want to say it again, how you're going to propose self-closing gates at all gate locations?
Yes,
I second that.
All right, so that's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
All right,
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries.
and the third motion would be to move for a remedy that the town council be authorized to seek the assistance of the court in enforcing the May 30th, 2025 order of this board, and also to authorize town council to take such steps as he deems reasonable to effectuate the compliance with that order. I want
yeah,
to
that's
broaden
what,
it so he doesn't have to actually go file this thing. If he
yeah.
if he wants to send a letter, if he wants to go over there with a baseball bat, get it.
A bigger
Done.
dog.
You don't need to
And that includes.
micromanage.
No, that's well, you said it well.
To send a letter to the.
Yeah.
Usually a letter works.
And did we want to give a deadline for compliance before, I guess, at least before we start issuing fines? Because we're getting going with the court order anyways, and it sounds like the amount of time it would take to make that court order happen is probably longer than the amount of time that it should take him to build a fence anyways. So I don't want to just give him as long as it takes before a judge forces him to do so. I think that if we give him, 2 weeks before we start levying fines as well.
So let's do fines in a second motion.
Okay.
Right now, I just want to authorize basically him to have discretion to enforce this,
Okay.
including up to and including court order.
Okay. All right.
I second that.
All right. So that's moved and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? All right. All in favor?
All right,
Aye. All opposed? All right. Motion carries.
So on the question of fines, you understand that to do fines is going to be a huge burden on the animal control officer, because you have got to go over there pretty much every day, see whether it's done or not, and then issue a ticket of some kind. If we have that, if we've put animal control law violations into our ticketing system. If not, I don't know the answer to that. Are you able to write tickets for dog violations?
Control law violations?
Yeah,
Yep, any police officer is.
great. So we've already adopted that statute. Okay. So I just want to make it clear that you're going to be making a trip over there almost every day because we'd want you to go every day and get 7 days a week.
Right, and I think.
Yeah, but I don't want them to start tomorrow, right? I think that it would be reasonable to give him, I'm just gonna say 2 weeks. I don't know that that's the right number, but if we say 2 weeks, then that means that 15 days from now is when the lieutenant or another police officer goes over and starts to check.
Well, let me ask a question before we get there. Did you want to, you go ahead if you want to.
Yeah, I just have a question to
Yeah.
kind of clarify that. The ticket that I believe Mr. Durensis is talking about is a control law violation, which is the one that is a warning and then 50, 100, and 250 within a 12-month period.
Yeah.
I don't know that the dog remaining on the property and not violating control is the same thing as a violation of failing to comply and completely fence. I guess my question is if the dog's being controlled within the home and we don't have a complaint, what kind of standing do we have to issue a control law violation when it's not a control law violation? It would be a separate entity, I would assume, that is a violation of an order, not enforceable as a control law violation.
Mike, can you clarify that for us?
Off the top of my head, I can't. I gave you the bylaw.
Gonna have to look at
Sit at the table, actually, maybe, if you don't mind, Mike, because sometimes it's hard to hear you because you're further from the microphone, too. I was going to say what you said, actually, Luke. But,
Well, your bylaw says, in addition to the remedies set forth herein and in Mass General Chapter 140, which is the dangerous dog statute, inclusive or any other applicable provision of law, this bylaw may be enforced through any lawful means in law or in equity, including non-criminal disposition, and then it sets forth a fine. So we have to say, well, is there a violation in here for failing to comply with your order? And I don't know that it actually talks about that here in it, but it does incorporate the statute. So if you have a violation of the statute, I think you could argue that you have a violation of your bylaw, and you could use that to, for the basis of issuing the fines. But I'd want to look at that, think about it a little more within the next day or two.
Okay.
Give you an opinion.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. But in the meantime, I do think that some deadline probably needs to be set for the actual enforcement or compliance of the order, right? Because again, it's not reasonable to expect that he's going to have that fence completed tomorrow, but it's also maybe not reasonable to say that it's going to take him 30 days or more to do that. So
why don't we say, there's an additional motion, we authorize town council to determine whether or not they can be fined. The dog owner can be fined. And if so, then any fine program to be administered by the animal control officer or any police officer will start 14 days. Do you want to pick an actual date like December 1st, or do you want to say 14 days from after he does the research?
Should be after the date of your decision.
yeah, I would say 14 days after I guess today, right?
You're probably going to sign the decision tomorrow, so it's going to be dated tomorrow.
December 2nd. Well, if you want to give it one day from the signing decision, that'd be December 3rd.
December 3rd, all right, we can say December 3rd.
I don't know if it helps. We just got an email with photos of the fence from the woman who spoke.
Yeah, she sent,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
saw those.
yeah, that was earlier today.
So that's my motion.
Okay,
I'll second it again.
all right, so that's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, none. So that motion carries. Okay. So are there any other questions from either town council or the animal control officer? And I share the concern that having to go check every day is a burden on the animal control officer, but I should say that the burden is not being placed by the Sherborn Select Board. The burden is being placed by the defendant who is failing to comply. So
I could make a logical argument that if he goes every 3 days, and the fence is not there, then it wasn't installed for the 2 prior days.
I like that.
Lieutenant, when you issued a violation on the 12th, right? And did that amount to a warning, or what was the nature of the violation that you issued?
It was $50 due to the calendar period.
Okay.
So the next one would be 100 within the 12
Yep.
month period, and 250 and then consecutive.
Okay, just trying to understand where we're starting. Thanks.
So because this meeting ultimately will make it onto either cable or be available on YouTube or whatever else, I guess I want to add to the discussion a statement to the dog owner, which is, please respect your neighbors as you would want your neighbors to respect you. You need to control your animals. We don't like to be having to talk about getting court orders and imposing fines and tickets. So please, if you are listening to this, do the right thing.
Chief Galvin?
Oh, I just wanted to comment just on the burden to the animal control officer. It definitely wouldn't be a burden because it wouldn't necessarily have to be him each day that checked on it. That we could make it part of our officers' patrol checks to check on the property and document whether or not it's been complied with.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. Anything else before we close the hearing? I think everyone's got their marching orders, right?
Can I move to close the hearing?
Moved.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Hi.
All right. So I guess that's that. And I guess we probably need another motion just to close the select board meeting.
Yep.
Is there anything that's not on the agenda that the chair is aware of that needs to be discussed tonight?
No, nothing that I'm aware of.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate
Thank
it
you,
very
Bill.
much.
Thank you.